Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, with the first of hopefully 4 videos this week as I have a little play around with some different formats to see what works well and what doesn't work so well. This is a 4-table video I recorded a little bit earlier on today. The top 2 tables are 15L snap tables, the bottom 2 are 13L snap tables, and we'll label the tables Table 1, Table 2, Table 3, Table 4. There was quite a lot of action and I almost timed out occasionally during the video, so I'm not sure if this video's going to be that great in terms of me picking every spot that we got into. But as it's just a little trial for me to see what works and what doesn't, please don't be too critical if it doesn't really come across too well. So here we go, the video straight into it. My race on table 2 when a unknown player min bets that flop. I'm going to race for some value from draws, from worse queens, from worse pairs, that kind of thing. He min bets a turn. I think it's pretty easy race again. I would be folding to a 3-bet at this point, but I think it's a clear spot for the value raise. I'm just going to treat the check like it's treat the bet like it's a check because it's so small, and respond the same way I would respond to a check raise. Table 2 again, we have a Jack Queen suited, and we're going to hope that the guy with the light blue tag Jagger comes along. That's the kind of guy I want to be playing pots with. The light blue tag is a tag of I give to the weakest players. I think we have a really standard C bet on this board. Obviously hoping he folds, but pretty comfortable if he doesn't fold. We can barrel some turns, or just have this equity against his calling range. This isn't a turn card that I'm going to barrel against a player who I don't expect to be making too many folds. So, he just fits in way too nicely with the flop. I mean, if he called with a draw, there's a more than reasonable chance he's got there now, or if he hasn't got there with his draw, he's made a pair. So I'm not really in the habit of trying to bluff these types of players. So at this point, I'll just have to take my free card, try and make them a straight, maybe try and make a pair, and just show my hand down. That's kind of what I was hoping to do at this point. So I think I checked back, which I did, and he bets the river, and we just have a really easy fold on that board. There's nothing much else to say or do about that. And yeah, I'm happy with the way I played the hand. On table 3 here, we have a decent squeeze spot, which I think I took. The plan here is hopefully have the guy with the red tag who's a regular fold. I mean, I don't mind if he calls too much, but I'd rather just play the pot heads up against the guy I've got position on. So that's what I'm hoping happens here. If I get 4-bet, I'm probably going to fold. Unless it's a really small 4-bet, in which case I peel, I would imagine. I can't see too many scenarios where a 5-bet over a 4-bet here. So I'll make quite a big squeeze. It's 13 blind or so. And both guys fold, which is clearly a fine result. Here I contemplated calling on table 4 with the Jack-9 suited, but I think it's just a little bit too weak. Versus under the gun from middle position. Table 2, pretty easy 3-bet versus an unknown player with queens on the button. Nothing too much to say. If there are too many kind of standard spots, I'm not going to pick up on all of them. I'll try and just concentrate on things that are less usual, less normal. mean, that was just a really standard spot. It didn't really bear commenting on unless something else happened after the 3-bet. Here on table 1 with on the 10-10 6 flop. It's a kind of really dry ball. When we raise the button and we get called from the blinds, both our ranges are going to be pretty wide. And, I think that we can certainly have more of this board than he can, because there's more random 10x and 6x in our range than there probably is in his. So I would hope that I go ahead and c-bet here, especially when we have the backdoor heart draw too. And hopefully we can just pick up the pot, make him fold his equity share, perhaps make him fold a better hand sometimes. When he calls and then donks the turn, it's kind of not, he takes the play away from us a little bit. I don't want to spew here and do anything crazy, so I think I just fold. And I did. I just don't think we have the best hand there, and if we do, we're not getting bluffed off the hand as weak as just A-side with a pivot kicker. It's not going to be the end of the world. I think it's a pretty standard fold. A lot of the players that I coach get into a lot of trouble defending these types of hands, the 6-8 suited. Against the button min open or 2.5x, I think it's fine to defend, but against the 3x from middle position, I think his range is going to be a little bit too strong. We're going to be dominated too often, and by dominated I mean you're going to have bigger pairs. Even pocket sevens dominates us here. So yeah, I'm kind of just happy to just fold the hand and move on. It's a pretty hand. We all like playing these types of hands, but out of position versus a middle position open, I think it's quite a trivial fold personally, unless we have a read that the player is particularly poor. I would play this against a bad player nearly all the time, but I don't know if this guy's good, bad, or anything. I don't play that much 30NL. I don't know much about any of the players. You'll probably notice that the 30NL tables, I'll have way less tags than I'll have the 50NL tables. That's because two reasons. Number one, the 30NL pool is way bigger than the 50NL pool. And number two, I just play less 30NL. So I know less about the regulars or less about the player pool in general. On table 1, I hope we have a 3-bet situation here. And out against that stack side, I would be 3-bet, 5-bet without too much. I mean, there's some regulars that I think 3-bet, 5-bet, ace, king. Whilst it can't be terrible, I don't think we're going to get it in particularly good shape too often against people's 5-bet calling range. But against somebody who's got a $60 stack, I'm very confident that it's going to be absolutely fine to get it in. Here with the Queen 10 on table 4, I made a pretty tight fold. The button opened 3x. If you made it 2.5x or min raise, I would have an easy call. 3x, I think it's just on the cusp. There has to be a cutoff at where we don't call. Not sure Queen 10's. I mean, I could 3-bet with it because it does block some things, like blocks ace, queen, and like pocket 10s. It blocks a few things, but I don't mind making a tight fold there. I don't think I'm making a huge mistake there by folding Queen 10. Of course, we could be folding the best hand sometime, but we're not always going to get to realise our equity. Queen 10 off, it's not that much of a good hand. And it's another hand where I think a lot of people would defend it and then get themselves in a little bit of trouble post flop. So again, against some players I would defend there. Against an unknown player, I just turn on the side of caution and fold. I don't have a big problem with that. We have another squeeze opportunity on table 3 here. I will be squeezed, calling it off, I would hope, against Danny Dan, and folding it should do killer make any kind of 4-bet. But they both folded, which is fine. Table 1, I would hope a call. Don't actually remember this hand at all, so who knows what's going to happen. It's almost as new to me as it is to you, but now I do remember because we got squeezed by a particularly active player, and I just tapped out. Although we do get in quite an interesting spot with this guy. Not much further into the video, I think, which will give us plenty to talk about because yeah, it's I found it quite an interesting spot, but we'll save that till we get there. 8-9 suited for me in middle position is just a fold. I know plenty of players like to open it, but for me it's a fold. I have no issue with people who do open it, but I prefer to try and keep my range pretty tight in under the gun middle position, and then try and open up a little bit more on the cut-off and button where we're more likely to have the luxury of position post-flop. I think on the table 3 here, we bet the flop. This turn bet may be a little bit thin. It's going to be hard to get caught by too many worse hands on the jack. But so maybe I could just have checked and done something else there. But I think bet folding is fine. Table 4. On this board, blind versus blind, I think he's going to see bet nearly all of his range on a board this dry, and it's quite an unassuming flop. There's not much going on there. He's got a right to expect his c-bet to work quite often here. But by the same token, because I expect most regulars, and I don't know if this guy is a regular or not, but because I expect most regulars to be c-betting boards this dry, and then maybe some of the weaker regulars not necessarily keeping the pressure up on the turn with the weaker hands, I think it presents us with a decent float opportunity. We can absolutely have hands like pocket fives, pocket sixes, pocket sevens here. We can have ace 3, ace 4. There's plenty of ways we can connect with this board. Obviously there is for him too. But I think when he checks the turn, I think it's going to give us a good opportunity to pick up the pot. To get on the board where I think people are going to be c-betting just a little bit too often. I think he does check the turn. And I believe I was make a smallish bet, and I think we get the bluff through. On table 2 here, we have a situation where we've 3-bet, and I don't think I've paused the video yet, no I haven't, where we 3-bet against a regular in middle position with 2 kings on the button, and we've picked up a cold caller in the big blind. I think he's a weak player, so who knows what his cold calling range is. Ranges are usually quite well defined in these spots with regulars. Regulars are usually going to have hands like 9s, 10s, jacks, ace queen, sometimes have ace king, and occasionally they have slow plays with kings and aces too. But there are not going to be too many weak hands in there. Against somebody who's probably based in the UK, I don't know, but he's probably based in the UK given his picture and the fact he's only got 50 blinds. I think his range is going to be much wider than that. I think he can have lots of pocket pairs, maybe even all pocket pairs, depending on how bad he is. Lots of combinations of just 2 Broadway cards, both suited and offsuit. I think we have a really easy bet, call it off here, if he was to shove on us. And especially with the second nut flush draw too, I think it's a really, really easy bet. Usually bet, call, then just shove the turn. And he checks again. I think we have an absolutely trivial shove at this spot. Perhaps I could have bet slightly more on the flop to make it not quite such a big bet on the turn, because we are betting for almost full pot. But I don't expect too many folds, and as it is, this guy turned up with a set of queens. And then, yeah, I guess we were going to lose our money however it happened there. I think we played, I think I took played the hand fine. Perhaps I could have maybe made my sizing a little bit bigger on the flop against a bad player, and make much more of an exploitable bet size. Make a bet size that I would never choose to bluff with. But against bad players, we can do that. We can use we don't have to worry about being balanced against bad players. But that's my only comment on that hand. I think the rest of it was fine. Just maybe perhaps make a slightly bigger flop bet to commit him. I may just speed this video up to 1.4x speed. I didn't want to play it 2x because with so many tables going, I think it just gets a little bit too manic. But when we go through the slow spots, I think it can also create some dead time, some dead air, and I don't really want that. So on table 1 here, by the way, before I speed it up, we isolated the guy's limp. Blind versus blind, which I think is absolutely standard with the hand as strong as King 9. And we flopped up there. Not such a good kicker, but we have a good shot, which probably rather not hit, to be completely honest with you, because I think he's going to make his hand quite often too. If he's got like peeling like a hand like ace 10 or who knows what other ace he can have. I think the King's a really good card for him in the turn. I think we still get lots of value from his draws, from his Jack X, from his 10x, Queen X. And on the river when he checks again, I made a reasonably small bet. I was kind of targeting the weaker parts of range like Queen X, 10x, those type of things. So eventually, almost timed out, but just made around a half pot bet, hoping he called. Don't think he did though. So anyway, let's just speed the video up just one notch to 1.4, see how we go from there. Hopefully it won't make things too hectic, but it will allow me to hopefully get through all the content that I recorded. I think we made a pretty standard C bet on this flop. When the turn breaks off when he calls, I don't really want to fire a second barrel here. I don't think I'm going to get him off a king ever. Probably not a 10 on that turn card either. So I mean, I'm just going to check back, try and hit a pair or hit my straight on the river. And if he checks again, I think then we have a profitable bluff spot on the river. It's a sort of line I could easily take this line with a hand like 2 queens or 2 jacks. I mean, the 10's not a great card. I don't actually remember if I bet the river or not, but I'd like to see myself bet around 3/4 spot on the river if he checks to kind of get him to fold out hands like pocket 9s, pocket 7s, some kind of 8. So yeah. I mean, there's a chance I have the best hand here. He could have a hand like Jack Queen or Jack 9 or something. But rather than just take my showdown, if I think I've got a chance of making him fold, I'd probably just rather make the bet. And it did work. Here on table 2, I went for a reasonably large 3-bet against under the gun. I think I'm turning my hand almost face up. But I think when a regular pots it under the gun, they're going to be quite close to the top of their under the gun range. Especially a player like this guy who, I don't want to give too much away, but I know quite a lot about him and I expected him to have a really strong hand here and not fold very often. As it happens, he did. But yeah, that sizing was very much based on that player and what I thought would happen. But I was wrong. Here against this guy, he's not tagged, but I've come up against him a few times lately. I think he's a pretty bad aggressive type of player from the Ukraine. Usually the Ukrainian players can be on the tighter side. This guy probably isn't. I haven't done too much work on him yet, but I get the impression that he's definitely on the loose and aggressive side. So I'm 3-betting here with a view to getting it in free, which I wouldn't normally want to do against someone's typical middle position range. For 4-bet calling it off. I don't think ace kings, it can't, again, as I mentioned earlier, can't be terrible, but I don't think it's going to be great against a lot of regulars. But yeah, against this guy, I think it's going to be fine to 3-bet, 5-bet shove. And he did make the 4-bet. I don't think I thought too long about it, and I just 5-bet jammed on him. Not expecting him to fold too often, but expecting to have enough fold equity to make it absolutely fine. Again, here on table 2, I think we have an absolute classic squeeze spot. We have a regular and a weaker player. Get the regular to fold, hopefully play a pot against a weaker player, which is how it panned out. Before we see the guy, I wanted to put it before we see the guy's hand. Oftentimes when you see weaker players just call an open, then back raise shove, they're usually not doing it with a particularly clever range. You kind of oftentimes they'll be doing it with medium, small pocket pairs, this type of hand, ace 10, ace jack, where they just kind of think, oh, bollocks to it, let's just get all the money in. They kind of just give up on the situation a little bit and just fire all the chips in. So I mean, I would have called there with ace jack, ace, basically anything that I'm squeezing this guy with. I'm going to call when he shoves his really, whatever it is, 20 big blinds stack in my face. I'm not going to squeeze a hand that I'm not going to stack up pre with against this guy. Yeah, estimate the jack 10 on table 4. Seems like a pretty standard isolation against somebody who probably isn't going to be a particularly good player. He's not got a full stack, he's limped first into the pot. Two good indications of a weak player. I think on that board we have a trivial c-bet with a board that hits our range pretty hard and a good shot. This table 1, this is a table hand I was talking about earlier. This guy is without question one of the laggiest players in the 5th gen pool for sure. I do have quite a hard time against him, if I'm being honest with you. Usually he's pretty good at applying pressure in a lot of ways. Usually he has position when he's doing it. I'm not sure how good he is, but he's certainly very good at applying pressure. And then he 3-bets here. This is my first decision point. And straight away I wasn't really sure, but I knew I wasn't going to 4-bet because we are pretty deep. I think we're like 150 blinds deep. I may be wrong, but I think we're close to 150 blinds deep. So I didn't want to 4-bet. So then I've got the decision between calling and folding. And I think if my hand was like a king 10 off or something slightly worse, maybe like an 8-9 suited or something, I would just fold. But I kind of thought beforehand there was a good chance this guy was going to 3-bet me. I think king 10 suited is going to play fine against his overall range because I expect his 3-betting range to be really wide here. I think I'll pull up his stats in a moment and I'll explain what they mean. I'll explain what my note means when I do finally get the pop-up, which I hope I'll pull up in a moment. Yeah, here it comes. And I think I may just have misclicked there and gone on too fast. So hang on, I'll just pause the recording whilst sorry about that. We're back now in exactly the same situation, and I'm just about to pull my note up on him. And this was the note I had, is 34/25, that's his VPIP, his PFR. And the 9 is his 3-bet percentage overall. So I think his 3-bet percentage blind versus blind is almost certainly going to be a lot higher than 9%. And yeah, and the note's not the most flattering in the world that he makes stupidly sized 5-bets. I put the LOL in usually on my notes because I think it's something unusual. Not that I'm laughing at the play so much, it's just it's there to make me read it again to make sure that I understand that I thought it was something unusual or fishy about a particular play somebody made. So it's not meant to be derogatory, it's just meant to prompt me to reread it again. So yeah, I think there's definitely a chance that this guy would spew if I 4-bet versus him, but the problem is if I do 4-bet versus him and he does spew, there's not much I can do about it. And then we set this really quite interesting flop. We've got middle pair, which I think can definitely be good here, and we have a backdoor straight draw. So I'm not looking to fold this flop. A check, expecting him to bet most of the time. I think when he does bet, I think anything other than calling would be poor. I think folding would be too weak. I think raising would just be pure spew. So I think all we have is a call situation, but it is starting to get to a point where the pot's going to be pretty big and we're going to have a pretty marginal hand. So I was already starting to not particularly enjoy the spot that I was putting myself in. And this is how this player does. I knew he was going to keep this kind of pressure up. I'm still not entirely sure of a good strategy against this player. I haven't figured one out yet, really. Obviously, the obvious strategy is to, well, not the obvious strategy, but something we could definitely do is have some slow played aces, kings, and queens, and what have you in our range here. We could expect this guy to see bet nearly all of the time. So I think that's would be a nice way to start, but we don't get those hands very often. So we need a better strategy than just that. And then the turn, it's a good and bad card for us. It can definitely hit part of his c-bet bluffing range. It can now give him plenty of two pairs. It can absolutely give him a straight, but also improves my equity too. So I started by checking again, and I don't think I was ever planning on folding here unless he'd made an outrageously large bet. And he makes a large enough bet. It's a decent sized bet. I think now I genuinely don't know this guy, because I think he's probably the sort of guy who's capable of just battling off here pretty light. But that said, I mean, I don't think he always bets this. I mean, I can't have too many nines in the range, but nor can he. So when he bets this turn this sizing, I think he's not going to be like nutted too often unless he has ace king. Yeah, I mean, he has to be scared of the fact I could sometimes have ace king, I can sometimes have a 9, I can have some of the sets, I can have two pairs. There's lots of hands I can have here. So when he bets, I think he's going to be kind of at the bet folding a lot, bluffing quite often, hoping that I'm just going to check fold a hand like 10x or who knows what. But I think also he can absolutely be value betting a hand like 3 10s, which seems unlikely because I've got a 10, 3 queens, 3 8s, who knows. But I think the major point is I don't really want to fold. I'm getting like over 2.5 to 1. I think with my draw, just about enough to call, and I probably, my plan was to just check for the river if I didn't improve. And you can see I really wasn't too comfortable with the whole situation. I finally tank called, and then we hit a really good river for us. I mean, obviously we're still behind to ace king, but that's all we're behind to now. And I think I made a mistake here. In fact, I'm very confident I made a mistake here now. I decided to, I think I shoved to try and get some calls from him. Just hoping to chop the pot, but in hindsight, I don't think a good player is going to be calling to chop here very often at all. I think the only time I get called here is when he has at least a king or ace king. I think he could probably fold a king here too. I don't think he folds a king always, but I was kind of hoping he may call just to play the board, which in hindsight I think was probably a bad mistake. And I think against this player, who I believe is quite aggressive, I think check calling may have been a better option here, or check shoving if he made a small bet. As you can see, I still wasn't sure what to do. I was really taking my time. Eventually, I did just shove, and the guy folded. And although I'm happy to pick up the pot, it's a decent sized pot to pick up. I'm not sure about my play on any of the streets, to be completely honest with you. But that was really quite a tough spot against a player that certainly gives me plenty of problems. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all of the content on this video because I am just making the videos with a view to hopefully getting some feedback on them. So if I'm going to be making 4 videos this week, I don't really want to be making 4 hour-long videos. I think I might just make 4 half-an-hour to 35-minute videos and just hopefully get some feedback from people on, was it too fast, was it too slow, are the tables too small, which I think is definitely a concern when I have 4 table. I do just record on a 17-inch laptop monitor, so I may have to invest in a larger monitor too. So this is more just feedback on overall video quality, not necessarily wanting feedback on how I played hands. I mean, if you want to give me feedback on how I played hands, that's absolutely fine, but it's more to get feedback on the audio quality, the visual quality, and the format, whether 4 tables is a little bit too fast or not. So I think what we will do is just maybe go for a couple more minutes, and then I think we'll just play these kings through and these jacks through, and I think we'll probably end the video for this session. And because I do intend on making at least 1 video a day, and unfortunately both of those had no action. So please, if you could take the time to just give me some feedback on the overall presentation of the video. Like I said, the audio, the visual, are the tables big enough, are they too small, the video quality, and also the speed. Was it too fast? Was 4 tables too much? Did it change when we get to 1.4x? Did it speed up just a little bit too much? Those type of things. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to troll me, please do. I probably won't pay too much attention to you, but it quite often makes me smile. So yeah, we'll see this jack 10, we'll see this jack 8 out, and then we'll call it a day on the video. This is the same guy from just a couple of hands ago, and I decided to take quite an aggressive line here with my 2 pair, thinking that there's a good chance he may still be a little bit steamed from the previous hand where I shoved him on the river, and maybe induce some light action. So for quite a sizable check raise here. I think it could have gone even bigger, to be completely honest with you, because there's tons and tons and tons of hands that I can get action from, and also tons and tons of hands that tons and tons of cards on turn that can absolutely kill my action. Any 9, queen, club, king, maybe even a 10. There's a massive portion of the deck that's going to either kill my hand or kill my action. So I wanted to make a really big raise here against him, hopefully induce him to shove against me or make a 3-bet. He didn't, but we get a pretty good turn card. And again, I make a really large bet. If he was to shove on me over my large bet, I wouldn't be that happy with the situation, to be completely honest with you. But I think 2 pair against a player that I started to develop a dynamic with would be too strong to fold in this spot. So I guess I would have stacked off, but probably not have been too pleased about it. But before we find another hand to distract me even further, I think we'll call it a day on the video. Thanks very much for watching, and thanks in advance for any feedback you give. Until tomorrow's video, take care and be lucky.